and Philip Schulz, who I'm told are such good friends they've been sending angry emojis over social media all morning.
We have both been reliably informed of the truth of this fact. So, yes, indeed, I think this will be a very friendly match. Two have been teammates for a very, very long time, and I'm sure they'll both want to play the best match that they can. And we'll see there. Nico will be playing Turtonator Volcanion Ho-Oh, a deck which we saw a lot yesterday.
It is a good deck. It's been well represented in this tournament. We actually saw Nico. I got to chat to him. He seemed like a very lovely fellow when I spoke to him yesterday. And clearly a very, very good player. I mean, these guys have been friends since 2009. They know each other very well at this stage. You've got to know they know what each other's playing. Philip is playing Drampa Garbodor. Now, we saw him on stream yesterday, and we remarked how this is a standard format deck, which has just had a few changes made and then just been thrown straight into the expanded format.
I think an interesting thing to note about these two players' accomplishments, we saw that Nico Alabas last year, he was actually the bubble for the top 22 in Europe, finishing 23rd, just missing out on that Day 2 invite for the World Championships. Philip, on the other hand, first in the entire world on championship points. An incredible accomplishment.
Oh yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. To have more championship points than literally any other player in the entire world, of the thousands of people that are competing, is just frankly ridiculous. So when we say that Philip is a good player, that's not us kind of hyping him up on stream. That's just us repeating the facts. But we are off now. Nico starts Turtonator, Philip starts Trubbish.
Indeed they do. So Philip will be going first. They're starting off with an Ultra Ball. Looks like he's going to be discarding a Field Blower and a Drampa, and just no hesitation there, going straight for the Tapu Lele. If I were a guessing man, and as I've said many times before, I'm going to guess he's going to grab a Bridget off of this.
I would say it's incredibly unlikely he doesn't grab a Bridget. In fact, if he doesn't grab a Bridget, I'm just calling that it's prized, except we can see the prizes, and it's definitely not. Actually, not terrible prizes for either player, although we do see that we've got 2 Versus Seeker prized for Nico, which is not ideal, and the single ability lock Garbodor is actually prized here for Philip, which could be an issue because obviously Volcanion EX's Steam Up may be needed to take out things like Drampa, although we know that they can actually be taken out by Ho-Oh.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be... Oh, and it looks like actually we were wrong, Ross, because Philip's just gone for the N here.
I'm genuinely surprised. I mean, it's not a bad play at all, and Philip is a far more accomplished player than I. I mean, sometimes you just don't have a hand. So sometimes you look at your Bridget and you go, okay, I can use Bridget, I can grab 3 basics, and next turn I've got nothing. No energy, no supporter, and this is the one thing that I find a lot. You can Bridget, but you've got no follow-up supporter next turn. So if your opponent doesn't end you and you don't draw a supporter, you don't actually have anything to do next turn. So sometimes, even though you desperately want to bridge it, you know that doing so leaves you short of options the following turn, and other than being prized, that is another reason why you would forego the turn 1 bridge it.
Yeah, a good setup can sometimes be made completely redundant if you don't have a follow-up play to make the most of that good setup you just achieved. So, yeah, in this instance, obviously Philip deciding that the N was the better play, but he was able to see a Trubbish off of that, which is great for him, so he's put that on the bench, but that is all he was able to do, as now it's go to Nico for his first turn, and he also finding an Ultra Ball. However, he certainly won't be going for a Bridget, because, as we've seen, this deck doesn't really play only EXs, only GXs rather. It plays some EXs as well. And Bridget, if you use grab an EX with Bridget, you can only grab 1.
And that is not good at all. Generally, for these Volcanion Turtonator decks, if you go first, you want a Kiawe, attach 4 energy, end your turn. If you go second, you want a Blacksmith to accelerate 2 energy. But that is, of course, contingent on what you have on the field. There's no point getting 3 energy on a Turtonator and then KOing a Trubbish with nothing else out. You need a bit of a setup. So just like Philip didn't go for the Bridget because his hand wasn't good enough to sustain after the Bridget, or at least we assume that's the case, Nico here may be going for a Kiawe, maybe going for a Blacksmith, or he might instead be forced to prioritise. But no, he has gone Tapu Lele 1 to tag for a Kiawe.
Yeah. And I think this is very strong for him because really he just wants to set up his board with as many attackers as possible to just keep doing Bright Flame over and over again on GXs or EXs. This is the way that Nico's going to win this matchup. Even if Philip is able to find his Garbotox and Garbodor out of his prizes eventually and put a Float Zone on and stop Nico from being able to use Volcanion EX's Steam Up, he does of course play Muscle Band. So 1 Muscle Band attached to a Turtonator will mean that Bright Flame will do 180 damage, which will knock out both Tapu Lele Lele, and Drampa GX.
That is an excellent point here. And, I mean, to be perfectly honest, Nico here, I mean, you know he wants a Ho-Oh. You want to get those 4 energy onto a Ho-Oh. The ability to just hit a flat 180 regardless of anything else, that is absolutely crucial. That is what everybody wants here. So, yeah. He's put it onto the Turtonator, and interestingly, he's chosen to get 3 energy with Kiawe, not 4. Obviously, Kiawe is up to 4, but that is an interesting decision, probably trying to protect it a little bit from being hit too hard by Tapu Lele.
I think what he's doing here is he's assuming that the active Turtonator will either get KO'd the next turn or the turn after from a Drampa GX's Berserk. So this way, next turn if he sees a Blacksmith with the 2 Fire Engine discard pile, he can power up his active and still attack with it, but then if the active Turtonator goes down, he has a follow-up one on the bench to do a revenge attack with.
And I'm actually looking at his deck list here. There are no Muscle Band in his deck. The only way he's got to accelerate damage is using that Steam Up. So actually, the more we look at this matchup, the more Philip's prizing of his ability lock Garboda starts to actually look like a really, really difficult thing, because 4 energy on a Ho-Oh hits for 180, KO's Tapu Lele, KO's Drampa, that's the other one he plays. Whereas 3 energy on a Turtonator does 160 and doesn't. So Philip back to the wall here a little bit early on. He didn't get a great setup turn 1. And Nico is, I'd say, slightly in the driving seat. We are still very early. It's an acid spray, and he flips heads and actually discards the energy.
This could be potentially big if Nico doesn't have another energy attachment from hand. Of course, if he does, that plus a Blacksmith means he will still be able to do a Bright Flame and knock out this Trubbish. But, yeah, a little bit good flip there for Philip, as now back to Nico. He does have the Volcanion out. Now, does he have the means of powering up the Turtonator? It looks like he has a Scorched Earth, and he's got 1 Fire Energy in hand, so he might take a risk on it. Decide to discard that with the Scorched Earth, draw 2 cards. He does indeed. Let's see what he finds.
No, it's a Steam Up. I think he's just going straight for Sycamore. I was exactly the same as you, Nick. I was thinking, is he going to go Scorched Earth? And he's looking for his Floatstone here. He does play 2 of them. If he's hit 1, he's got the KO, but it doesn't look at the moment like he has. I certainly can't see it there in his hand.
No, he does have an Ultra Ball. He can maybe go for his Shaman, which he does play 2 of, maybe try and dig for the Floatstone that way, but yeah, he's not been able to get the Floatstone yet.
And there is the question of whether it's worth digging that much to get the KO on the Trubbish. I think it probably is, because going ahead in the prizes is good. And the other thing is that when you see your opponent, like Nico's looking now, having a fairly poor setup, one of the things you start thinking is, if I rush just a little bit, if I extend maybe a little bit more than I usually would, I can maybe destroy what little setup they've got, and then they won't have those couple of turns they need to really advance their board state far enough.
Yeah, and I think one of the other big things as well is that Philip actually hasn't been able to mount any sort of indication of a Drampa threat at all. We see a Tapu Lele on his bench with a double colours and a choice band, but Drampa, there's not even a Drampa on the bench, let alone one with an energy attached, so Berserk won't be happening for at least 2 or 3 turns at this point, which has got to be good for Nico, because that's one of the things that can actually, even though it's a 2-prize attacker that Nico can KO, it's one of the things that can one-shot back Volcanions at least really easily. Maybe it's not so much Turtonator, because of course Turtonator does have 190 HP, which, as we mentioned, that 10 extra is very relevant in a lot of circumstances, and withstanding a Drampa's Berserk with a choice band being one of them.
Oh yes, and as you were talking there, Nick, I'm thinking he's going for Nitro Tank. He's thinking Nitro Tank. He went Nitro Tank. He only got 4 energy out the discard rather than 5, because he only had 4 energy. But he ended up in a position now where he's like, I've got nothing. I've got 1 you know what? I'm just going to Nitro Tank. It's fine. I'll live with it. And actually, now you look at Nico's setup, and that Nitro Tank, although I don't think it was really the attack he desperately wanted. 3 energy on a Turtonator, 3 energy on a Ho-Oh, and 2 energy on a Turtonator. He's got 8 energy on the field. He's basically got 3 attackers ready to roll. And Philip needs something quickly here, or he is going to be overrun.
Yeah, absolutely. That Ho-Oh, of course, also having 190 HP, so also not really something that Philip can easily deal with Drampa. So it looks like he's going to have to sort of mainly focus his attacking efforts on with Seismitoad, Garbodor, and Tapu Lele. But of course, Toad falls victim to Ho-Oh's Sacred Fire. Is it Sacred Fire the second attack? Or I get the attack names mixed up sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be fine there. Let's call it Sacred Heart. Phoenix Bird.
Yeah, that's it. So
Phoenix Bird.
Doing 180, and that just KOs the Seismitoad in one shot anyway. So yeah, a bit of a tough spot for Philip.
And we saw that yesterday. These fire decks, in theory, they should be really weak to Seismitoad, because they're all oh no, wait, they're not all weak to water. And not only is Ho-Oh not weak to water, as if that wasn't annoying enough, they can also just do a flat 180 and KO Seismitoad. And we saw this on stream yesterday. Seismitoad was not that much help. Ho-Oh really has put these fire decks into a much better position. Now, we do see a Trash Avalanche coming from Garbodor here, but it's not enough for a KO.
No, indeed it isn't. So now back to Nico, as long as he finds one more energy, he could just retreat this active Turtonator and just preserve it from being knocked out next turn and bring out something else. Or he could just decide to, I'm happy for this to go down, I'll just Shell Trap again, or just attach one energy extra and then just Bright Flame to deal with this Garbodor. Now, the one unfortunate thing for Nico is that we've seen some lists opt to play Acerola with these sort of fire-based decks, but Nico has opted to not play that, so that isn't an option for him that to just pick up that Turtonator and deny those prizes entirely.
It isn't, but I think he's got a Guzma in hand. So what I'm thinking here is, rather than retreat, no, it looks like he's going Sycamore. I was thinking whether maybe he might Guzma to try and take out either the Seismitoad or one of the Tapu Leles, in advance to make sure they can't come up and threaten later. Or maybe he just wants to take out that Garbodor because he feels like he's doing a bit too much damage.
I think that would have been his ideal play, but he doesn't have an extra energy in hand. He would need an extra energy to either steam up to KO the Turtonator or attach the Ho-Oh to KO with Phoenix Burn. So without that, he's just forced to Sycamore because he just doesn't have that one resource short of being able to pull off those moves.
And that is wonderful, because I was just about to ask if you'd seen his hand and if you'd seen that extra energy. Because you're absolutely right, he's just one energy away from anything useful. I don't mind this. He's Bright Flaming, he's KOing the Garbodor. Yes, it's going to go down. But then, okay, he then KOs a second Garbodor, takes out 2 EXs and wins. I don't mind that Philip's going up by a prize here, because if you look at the relative board states of both players, I'd go Nico's in a heartbeat, and I don't think it's even close.
I'm not sure I'd necessarily go that far. Tapu Lele is still quite threatening because these attackers that Nico puts up, you need to put a lot of energy on them in order to do big amounts of damage. Like, overall, in a damage race, sure, Nico will KO stuff first, but there's also more EX threats on Nico's bench which are vulnerable. Don't forget, there's a Shame in there looking like a pretty easy target for Philip to take out at a later point in the game. So, although I'd say Nico's in the advantage, I wouldn't count Philip out of this game just yet.
Oh, I'm not counting him out. He is literally one of the best players in the world. He's also playing a Bridget right now just to get a couple more Trubbish out, which is good. He needs to advance his board state. Presumably, he's either going to use a Tapu Lele to take the KO here, which would give just enough damage if he used the non-choice banded one, because it would put him up to 190. Or maybe he's got a Garbodor and an energy ready to finish with that. I just worry that Tapu Lele isn't getting one-hit KOs, and in theory, Nico is getting one-hit KOs. And if we assume that players take prizes top to bottom as they usually do, then Philip is, still a KO away here from getting his Garbodor back. Meaning, and I love Nico's play here, use the Turtonator to take out the Lele, save the Ho-Oh for the Seismitoad, and I really do think he's in a very commanding position here.
Given that he's just attached an extra fire energy to the Turtonator as well as doing the steam up, I think he might even be expecting the Turtonator to last 2 turns and take 2 knockouts, because if you're expecting the Turtonator to get knocked out next turn, you don't attach an extra fire energy to it.
But what's KOing it? I mean, if you look at Philip's side of the board, I don't see anything there that's threatening a one-hit KO. I'm fairly sure Garbodor's still out of range. Tapu Lele, with 190 HP, no damage and 2 energy on you, it's going to take them loads of energy. Seismitoad can't do more than 120 with a choice band, and there is no Drampa, and even if there was, Drampa's maximum damage output is 180. So I think Nico's done absolutely the right thing here, because I don't see that Turtonator going down next turn.
No, the Turtonator should definitely be able to pick up 2 prizes fairly easily, and by attaching the energy to the active, Bright Flame would discard 2. It means that he doesn't even need a Blacksmith in order to attach another Fire Engine, Bright Flame again next turn, so he could follow up with a different supporter, maybe even a Guzma to take something else out.
And that's what I really like, because you say he only needs 1 more on the Turtonator, absolutely correct. He also only needs 1 more on the Ho-Oh. So he's got 2 attackers. He needs 2 KOs to win the game, assuming 1 is a GX KO, which it should be. And he's got 2 attackers, both of which are 1 energy away from attacking, and in theory not in danger of being one-hit KO'd. So he's doing that thing that the good players do so well. And we actually saw Philip do beautifully on stream yesterday, setting up multiple attackers, so even if you get end, don't really care. And there's no one target your opponent can KO to really wreck your setup, because you've always got something in the back ready to come in.
Yeah, and to me, Ross, this really just shows, once again, a great example of just why this Turtonator deck has done so well, why it's so popular, the amount of power that it packs in such a small package, and just what it does, doing not that much, but outpouring just tons of damage that your opponent has to deal with. It makes it hands down one of the best decks in Expanded for me, and this is being demonstrated right here.
I mean, we don't really switch off from Pokemon. That has been commented on by some people. Our minds are on Pokemon pretty much 24/7. We went out for tea last night, and we were clearly talking about the top 8. And I said it then, I'll say it again, I still think Turtonator is the best positioned deck in top 8. I think one of the Turtonator players, if I had to guess, and I am, like you, Nick, a guessing man, I think one of the Turtonator decks is going to win here. I think we're going to see Turtonator crowned as champion in this matchup. I think Mark Lutz and his Night March are a threat, but I still think Turtonator's the way to go.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back to the game, we do see from Philip's side the power draw card of Expanded. Colress going to be able to net Philip a really nice 8 cards, give him lots to work with. It looks like he's drawn a lot of supporters, though. I can't even see what they are, but I'm seeing a lot of orange bars of text.
He's got a Teammates, he's got a Guzma, he's got a Versus Seeker. He's got... Now, I really want to know how much damage this is doing. I'm fairly sure it's not a KO, because it did 130, if I remember, last time, and that must have been with a choice band, because otherwise it would have been an even amount of damage. So that would have been saying, 5 items? So, I mean, unless there's 10 items in the discard, it's not going to be a KO. No, all right. So, it's still just 5 items in the discard doing 100 damage. So now, Nico's just thinking 1 energy KO Garboda, 1 energy on Ho-Oh, and if he's got a Blacksmith this turn... No. Oh, okay. This is a very interesting play here. We might be going Guzma.
He is going for Guzma. And once again, I just want to really draw attention to the point that this is one of the other strengths of the Turtonator deck. How much work has Nico been able to put in without playing that many items and not falling prey to Trash Avalanche? Even after all of that stuff that he did, the Trash Avalanche was still only doing 100 damage. And now, even with this extra Versus Seeker, it's only doing 120. So the Garbodor isn't even a revenge threat to this Ho-Oh now.
It's really not, and that is wonderful here. Now, Phoenix Burn cannot be used the following turn, so Nico will need something like a Guzma next turn, or he could even just... I mean, again, if he's got an energy, he's fine. Now, if Seismitoad comes up, he would need 2 energy, 1 for Steam Up and 1 for Turtonator. But as it stands at the moment, and we do see a Tapu Lele coming down off a rescue stretcher here, might this be a time to play an N, put Nico down to a single card hand? This is why I was thinking Turtonator the previous turn. If you KO with Turtonator, without using the Guzma, then you go down to 2 prizes, and an N is a little bit less punishing.
It is. I think what Nico was thinking is that he wanted to put himself in a board state where, as long as he KOs something, then he gets to win next turn. He wanted to just get his 2 prizes out of the way so that, in theory, he could just deal with anything in the active next turn and win no matter if Philip promotes, and stop giving Philip that extra turn to maybe get another knockout in response. But this end is definitely going to hurt a lot. Nico will need to see Fire Energy from this or some kind of draw supporter. Granted, he does play a lot of Fire Energy, so the odds are in his favour.
Oh yeah, he plays 17 basic Fire Energy, which is a lot. That's how many Fire Energy we were playing when we were children and didn't understand the rules of the game. And yet now it's kind of coming back and no, I'm a great player in a high-level tournament, going for a World's invite and trying to win the World Championship, but I'm still playing 17 energy. Yeah. It didn't look like an energy he drew, though.
No, I believe he drew the Non-EX Volcanion. So with that, Philip, he won't be able to take the knockout on his Ho-Oh, but he will be able to, soften it up a little bit with another Trash Avalanche and just hope that Nico didn't draw a switch card, basically.
Yeah, unfortunately. Now, a Guzma here would obviously win the game straight away. That would be easy. Or he could potentially... I mean, an energy here would win the game. He got the energy!
He draws the Fire Energy, retreats, attacks with Bright Flame to knock out the Garbodor, and Nico takes game 1.
Oh, all he needed. I mean, there's so many games where we're sitting there going, he needs a choice band, he needs a Guzma. We're like, needs a basic energy.
Yep.
And he got it. He retreats the Ho-Oh because there's 4 energy. Good for attacking, also pretty good for retreating. 1 more energy and boom, takes the KO. 160, easily enough for a Garboda. And I think, now to be fair, Philip never had his ability lock Garbodor in that game.
No.
And that was a big deal, because there was at least one, maybe two KOs, which were only possible because of that Steam Up Bright Flame combination.
Yeah, and as you corrected me on earlier, Nico isn't playing Muscle Band, my apologies, and so he needs those Steam Ups if he wants to be able to get those enough damage to KO things with Turtonator. If he isn't able to access Steam Up, then it's only really Ho-Oh that's able to get these one-shots on these Tapu Leles and Drampas.
Yep, that is absolutely, and I mean, Drampa is a threat here, but one of the things that I really dislike about Drampa, one of the really annoying things is, unless you play something like a Professor Kukui, you are capped at 180 damage. Now, historically, 180 has been one of the key numbers in the Pokemon trading card game. There were very few EXs that went over 180. I mean, you're basically talking Zygarde, Wailord, and the Team Aqua's Kyogre and Team Magma's Groudon.
Absolutely, which had 190, 250, 190, and 190 respectively.
And they were like the only ones, whereas now we're seeing quite a few basic Pokemon that have more than 180. You've got your Turtonator, you've got your Lapras, and then you've got things like Wishy-Washy on 210, but still being a basic Pokemon. And it's not in many matchups where that becomes a big issue as the Drampa player, but in a matchup like this, it really is a bit of an issue.
Yeah, it is indeed. As we can see there, the prizes there nowhere near as damaging for either player, I think. A nice sort of like spread of things, although a Shaman and a Lele for Nico might hurt his consistency a little bit depending on how his opening hand looks.
Well, that's a weird thing, because Nico actually plays 3 Shaman, where most of these decks only play 1, so he'll be able to weather it a little bit better. Now, Philip attaches a basic Psychic, good for retreating. He can't attack this turn anyway. Oh my goodness, all he's got is 1 Trubbish and a Lele with a Muscle Band and an Energy. He played a Sycamore, benched a Trubbish, and just passed.
Oh dear.
It's 2 bad starts in a row for Philip here.
Yeah, it really is. And Nico is off to a seemingly a much better start. He's got Scorched Earth ready to go. 1 Fire Engine discard pile, draws 2 cards. What do you see? A Tapu Lele.
Oh, that's quite nice. Now, it's a lot to ask for, but Energy, Blacksmith, and Volcanion plus Steam Up would get a KO on this Tapu Lele straight away turn 1.
I think he's actually really close to it. He's got the computer search in his hand ready, and of course he's got the Tapu Lele as well. I think he's actually able to do it.
If he would be able to get a turn 1 KO on a Lele, go 2 prizes up and leave Philip with just a single Trubbish in the active, that would be an extremely powerful turn 1.
In fact, to do it, he would need 1 more Fire Energy, because he can... Because he can get the Volcanion with this, but then he wouldn't have a draw for next turn. So if he computer searches for the Shaman and tries to dig for the extra Fire Energy and the Volcanion, that would be a way of doing it. But it'll be interesting to see which route he takes. Maybe he decides to go a bit more conservative with it.
I don't know. It's going to depend. Okay, so it looks like he's going to drop his N here. Now, of course, he's got Versus Seeker, so we can reuse the N. And it really depends. Is he going for the nice conservative setup, or is he just going all out to try and KO that Lele turn 1? Now, to be honest, it wouldn't be a terrible play here to just Shell Trap. Just use a Shell Trap and then force that Lele to take 8 damage counters if it attacks in. However, he has gone for the Shaman off the computer search, so it really does look here like he's going to be trying to dig a little bit, because otherwise you would expect maybe just playing the N, getting a couple energy on the board. It looks like he's digging.
He's firing on all cylinders as he goes for the Shaman off the computer search. On goes with the Fire Energy. I assume we're going to see... Oh no, he's actually going to Shaman first. And he sees the Fire Energy.
Floatstone, Sacred Earth, Scorched Earth, Blacksmith, but I don't think he has... He doesn't have the Volcanion.
No, that's the last missing bit he needed, and sadly he missed it, so he will not be able to get the KO this turn.
But there is a strong argument here to just play the Blacksmith anyway and Shell Trap. But then again, you leave yourself in an awkward position, because the more energy you've got on the Turtonator, the more energy, the more damage the Tapu Lele will do back. Looks like he's going Kiawe here, almost certainly to the bench Turtonator, and I don't think anyone can argue with this play. No. Although again... probably wishes it was a Ho-Oh.
Probably, but at the same time, it makes so much sense to do this. Given that you saw your opponent had a really slow start, you can just think, right, I can kind of abuse this. I can just afford to take more time than I usually would. Obviously Philip hasn't got that much to work with, so why not just use a turn to just attach a bunch of Fire Energy to my bench. Next turn, I can maybe use a Blacksmith, because I think he drew one off the Shaman actually, so next turn he can just Blacksmith anyway, and then he should be able to find everything he needs to get a knockout in this Lele, as now Philip benches another Trubbish, evolves his other Trubbish into a Garbodor, plays down a Potown, and then double colors on the active, and he actually does have enough for an energy drive.
110 is not bad for an energy drive here. It's all right. It puts a bit of damage on the Turtonator. Obviously, Nico here. But the thing is, like we've said, with no muscle band, I love that float stone, but he's going to need a Volcanion, and he's going to need an energy here.
Yeah, so he has the energy already. He's got the replacement Scorched Earth. He might see if he can find the Volcanion off of this Scorched Earth draw before maybe just going for a Juniper or Sycamore, whichever one he's playing, Sycamore in this instance, and try to dig for the Volcanion that way. But it looks like he's taking time thinking about this. He wants to make sure that he's going to do this way which makes the most sense, because of course if he discards the fire energy, then he doesn't have the energy to discard off for the Volcanion steam up.
No, and that is an awkward one, but he doesn't have the Volcanion at the moment, so it looks like he's going to attach. He might be going Shell Trap here, because with a retreat cost of 3 and already a float stone on there, that's not actually enough. So it does look like he's just going for the N here.
Oh.
I think personally I would have gone Scorched Earth before the N, because you never know. I mean, maybe he just draws into a Volcanion and a Fire Energy, in which case he can just manually retreat and then maybe pull off a Blacksmith play.
Yeah. Or maybe even if he doesn't draw into a Volcanion Fire Energy, even if he just draws into a non-N draw supporter, something like, something like a Sycamore, like you said, he can just discard everything and then that way not give Philip a new hand when he's obviously not got that much going for him.
But one thing I do really like that Nico's doing here, he's taking his time. He's not just going all in to KO the Tapu Lele. He's recognising that, you know what, I've got a better setup. And I can afford to just chill for a bit. Oh, now he did hit an Ultra Ball and he hit a Fire Energy. So you've got to think he's going for the EX Volcanion here. I was going to say, don't discard the Fire Energy, because you need the Fire Energy for the steam up.
He probably thought he had 2 in hand, but then realised, wait, that's not a Fire Energy, that's a non-EX Volcanion, let's just switch that real quick. And Philip allowing him to take it back, being a good sport about it, of course.
Well, I always thought the rule with the Ultra Ball was it ends when you search. So until you've actually searched, you haven't actually locked in the cards you're discarding.
Oh, fair enough.
I believe that's the case. I may be mistaken, but hey-ho. Either way, we're good. Now, he does get the Volcanion active. He hasn't done the steam up yet, but he's gone active. He's got the energy. Oh, no, he must have done the steam up. He just didn't. He usually turns the Volcanion. Didn't do it this time. But he gets the KO, and what I like is he actually Kyo'd 4 energy on this game, unlike in the previous game, and that allowed him now to have 2 energy on there, ready for a third the following turn. He saw Philip's setup and bet that there wasn't a Guzma coming.
Yeah, and it's a very safe bet to make, given that, as we saw, Philip's hand was pretty weak before, so especially given that this Bright Flame was able to KO the opponent's Tapu Lele and just take all of Philip's energy off the board. Now Philip needs to have drawn really good off of that N in order to have the Guzma and the attack ready to actually KO anything on the bench.
Oh yes. The general rule is you play Guzma when you need a KO or when you've got such a good setup. So one of my favourite things to do is if I get a better setup than my opponent, just start KOing all their evolving basics, because I've got the luxury of being able to play Guzma. Philip in neither game here has had a good enough setup to even consider something like that. And so here again, he's playing the Tapu Lele. We might be seeing... Okay, I was thinking maybe he might bridge it there. He's going Colrus. He'll get 7 cards. That's good. It's a decent draw. 8 if he plays a Seismitoad here. So he's going to get a decent new hand with Colrus. But he still doesn't have very much, although he's got the Field Blower here.
Yeah, so with that, he's able to discard the Floatstone and the Scorched Earth, sort of cutting off Nico from one of his important draw engines. This is something that we noticed with these Turtonator decks being played. They rely more on Scorched Earth than you think they would. Of course, they are playing 17 Fire Energy. Fire Energies don't really do anything by themselves, but combined with Scorched Earth, they give you that little bit of extra dig that, although it may not seem that much, 2 cards at a time, over the course of the game, adds up to hitting a lot more opportunities that you'd otherwise have to miss.
Oh, it makes an awful lot of difference here. Now, I think what Philip really wants here, and it's a lot to ask for, but if he could get, say, Floatstone, Double Colourless Energy, Garbodor Tool, he could maybe start using Seismitoad while blocking abilities, and that would guarantee that no KO would come down from Turtonator, but then again, you're, running into that Shell Trap here. So, and that is one of the brilliant things, that even if there's no Ho-Oh to take out the Seismitoad, Shell Trap means Seismitoad does 60, but takes 80.
Yeah. And of course, this hurts Seismitoad even more because the damage output is always capped at that. Seismitoad is not a high damaging Pokemon, so every single time, if there's a war between Quaking Punch and Shell Trap is always going to win that war.
And that's a really annoying thing, because even with a choice band, because of the 100 and, you're only actually doing 120 with Quaking Punch, so it's going to take 2 hits to KO, during which time you take the 80, they hit you, you take the other 80, and you get KO'd at the same time, except you've lost your double colourless and your choice band and, one of your weapons, and your opponent's just been, just chilling with Shell Trap.
Yeah, and you can tell Philip was really agonising over this. He knows that, granted, Nico did Bright Flame last turn, so there's no Shell Trap damage going on this time, but Philip knows that there wasn't the ideal draw that he saw off of that end there. He would have really liked to... He saw the Float Stone, but he didn't see the double colourless, so he wasn't able to do that nice bit of damage with... he would have been able to 120 to the Turtonator, actually, with Choice Band because of the weakness, so that would have been pretty good for him. But as it stands now, instead, there's just another Blacksmith coming from Nico's side, and now he's just going to be able to deal with this Garbodor. Another Bright Flame will mean that Garbodor hits the discard pile, and Nico's going to take a hefty prize lead already.
He is. Now, there is a way for Philip to get the KO back here. Double colourless Choice Band, a lot to ask for given what's already been played, would then do 110 and exactly get the KO on Turtonator with a Tapu Lele. But then again, it would still just be energy for the Turtonator, energy for Steam Up, and then there'd be a KO from the bench Turtonator here.
Yeah, but instead, what's happening here, Ross, is that Philip actually has teammates, so with that, he's able to search, I'd imagine, for double colourless Floatstone, put the double colours on the Seismitoad, and do Quaking Punch for 120 to knock out this Turtonator instead.
That would be awesome. The other thing he really needs is an ability lock Garbodor here. He needs Garbotoxin, because if he doesn't get Garbotoxin, Nico can just go Energy Steam Up KO, and then he's down to 1 prize, and everything Philip's done has gone to naught. There is, and it's awkward with the damage already on there, because of course not only will Quaking Punch KO the first Turtonator, it will also KO the second. But we saw how much of an advantage Nico gained with that early game Nitro Tank game 1. And I'm wondering if maybe he could do that this game as well. But he doesn't really have a Turtonator he can afford to Nitro Tank with.
No, he doesn't. And as we see there, Philip was able to indeed get the Floatstone, plus the Garbotoxin, Garbodor, plus the double colourless, able to do Quaking Punch for 120, knocking out the Turtonator. And on the point you just made, Ross, I think actually if Nico's going to Nitro Tank any turn, he might even consider doing it now. It would mean sacrificing the Turtonator in the active, but at the same time it means that the Ho-Oh would then be ready to go for next turn, then it could knock out the Seismitoad, and at that point Philip doesn't have as much left to respond with.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm looking at Philip and going, alright, he took the first KO on the Turtonator, there's 2 prizes. He's going to be able to KO the second Turtonator with a Lele or a Seismitoad. He's got options. Fine, 4 prizes. But where did the last 2 come from? Maybe a Guzma onto a Shaman with a Trashalatch Garbodor? But we saw how long it took for Nico to play enough items in the previous game. So as it stands, I still like Nico's position here, even if that second Turtonator goes down, especially if he's got a Ho-Oh with which to respond.
Yeah. And we saw he actually had a Fire Engine in hand before playing a Sycamore, opted to attach it to the bench Ho-Oh instead of the Turtonator, pretty much assuming that he wasn't going to see the Field Blower Fire Energy combo to do Steam Up for the knockout. And yeah, indeed, we'll be going for the Nitro Tank now. So I imagine we'll see 2 of these go onto the Ho-Oh and probably 3 onto the Volcanion EX, because, I mean, Nico knows that this Turtonator in the active is going to go down, so there is no point in attaching energy to it.
No, not at all. And again, here, Philip, okay, he's going up by a prize. He's going down to 2 prizes remaining. But we get back to the whole board state argument. Philip is going to lose that Seismitoad. If Seismitoad just KOs Turtonator, Ho-Oh comes up, Phoenix Burn for 180, easy KO, nice and simple. And then he can just potentially retreat and take a KO with Volcanion. Although, you said about finding the Field Blower. Nico is only playing a single Field Blower.
Has he already used it?
I don't believe so. He may have discarded it, though.
Yeah, because if he has, then obviously he knew that he wouldn't be able to get the combo, which is why... Oh, we should be able to see it now.
See, I'm looking, I don't see it.
No, okay.
I think it was so unlikely he didn't want to be relying on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that, but there weren't a huge amount of items in there either. So again, it goes back to what you were saying about board state, Ross. Even if Philip is able to mount a counter-attack with the Trashalanch Garbodor, it just won't be doing enough to deal with the Ho-Oh or the Volcanion.
And that's so awkward. And this is one of the frustrations of being the Garbodor player. Sometimes you're just sitting there just going, please, just play some items. I need to do some damage.
And then Nico's just like, nope, sorry, no chance.
But the attack, and I know it's just, and we do get the KO here with Quaking Punch as expected, but that attachment to Ho is actually really big, because it meant that the Nitro tank worked out perfectly to get 2 energy on the Ho-Oh, putting it up to 4, 3 energy on the Vol, and that's what he needs, because it will take a double steam up to get a KO on a Tapu Lele. So I love this play from Nico here.
Yeah, not only that, so now he has the second Volcanion down. Philip probably thinking, oh, maybe I can Guzma or Lysander that up at a later point to, maybe buy himself some turns, but no, because Nico had the Blacksmith ready to put 2 Fire Energy on it, stopping that strategy entirely, and then Phoenix Burn knocks out the Seismitoad, putting Nico down to 1 prize left, and now Philip has, this to be an Ultra Ball, he gets a Trash Launch Garbodor, but that's still not enough for a KO.
And I don't think he can attack.
Is it enough of the Choice Band? Oh, he has the Guzma.
He's got the Guzma,
okay,
which will KO the Shaman with the Choice Band. And now Philip will get a game, and we are 1 game each, and we are on to game 3.
Yeah.
And that is the power of these Garbodor decks. They are really, really good, because 4 items, and you get to KO a Shaman.
Yeah.
So as much as we're talking about Nico not playing items, 4's all it took.
Yeah, and there even came back to something we brought up so very, very early on when I said, don't count Philip out of this game yet, because that Shaman is looking like very easy pickings on the bench, and that's exactly how Philip won that game.
Yeah, it was a very, very well-played game from Philip, and I said I'm not 100% sure where the final 2 prizes were coming from. I said they might come from the Shaman. Well, apparently they did come from the Shaman, and Philip had that all worked out. And the one thing I think Philip really showed there was patience. It was such a patient game. He was on the back foot the whole game there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just that one turn where Philip was able to take 2 knockouts on 2 prize Pokemon in a row, and then just able to pick off that Shaman for his last 2 prizes when he just had everything ready. A superb play from Philip, proving himself, just showing why he is one of the best players in the world.
And you know that in the early game, when he did that damage to both of those Turtonators, he's sitting there thinking, don't worry, boys, I'm just going to Quaking Punch them both later with a Choice-Banded Seismitoad. I'll take 4 prizes. And yeah.
Yeah. Also, I just realised something. He was saying, maybe he just thought that the Field Blower play was unlikely. The Quaking Punch was active. He couldn't use the Field Blower.
Oh, of course he couldn't. How silly. We probably should have twigged that slightly earlier.
Yeah, we probably should have.
I mean, I still don't think it was the best play. I liked his Nitro Tank play. I thought it was really good. I liked the way that he set up beautifully. He got the energy on all of his Pokemon. Even down to, on that final turn, all of his Pokemon essentially had 1 or 0 retreat when you took into account how much energy was on them.
Yeah. Oh, some potentially ugly prizes for both players here. It seems like there's a Field Blower. Oh, no, hold on. So I thought that Nico had prized 1 Field Blower. No, it's that Philip has prized his Field Blower, but Nico has prized 1 Blacksmith, 1 Kiawe, and his Computer Search.
Little bit awkward, and Philip's prized 2 Versus Seeker, which is a little bit awkward, but nothing terrible here, and here's what I like. He got the Ho-Oh turn 1. Oh, but he doesn't get Kiawe. This is one of those things like we were talking about in the previous game. He could totally Kiawe here.
He totally could, but I think Nico, he opened with a hand of all Pokemon. Like, he's just filled up his entire bench going first on turn 1, and he didn't even use a Bridget.
Nope. And if he had used a Kiawe there, his hand would have been Fire Energy. That's not a good hand.
No, that's really not what you want to do. And so instead, 1 Fire Energy goes on to deactivate for Nico, and that's a pretty good turn 1, I'm not going to lie. Maybe we would have liked a couple more energy, but in terms of the attacking setup, it's pretty good.
I mean, if he can get himself a couple of turns here, he can just manually attach to the Ho-Oh, pull off a couple of Power Heats. He's got a Sycamore in hand. He could Blacksmith, but I think, to be honest here, just Power Heater to get those energy back. Philip is not KOing Volcanion this turn. Maybe he can Berserk for 150 next turn, but that's not a huge worry at the moment as he plays a Sycamore to get a Juniper to get a new hand. So I think Power Heater for a couple of turns could be just a great start for Nico.
Also, don't discount the Volcanion second attack. We mentioned a couple of times already. Steam Artillery. Perhaps when the deck is played in Standard, you never really get to use it as much because it's much slower to power up. But with Blacksmiths and Steam Ups, Steam Artillery is doing a lot of damage for a non-EX Pokemon. All it takes is 2 Steam Ups to do 160, 3 to do 190, and at that point you're carrying some pretty big things. It's a shame that Nico isn't playing Muscle Band, because if Muscle Band is available with 2 Steam Ups on a Muscle Band, you actually do 180. You can actually one-shot this Dramper, but Nico doesn't have enough Volcanion EXs to do that now, given that he's already filled up his bench.
He has. Now, Philip has had a cracking start to this game. It's much better. He still hasn't played a turn 1 Bridget, which has got to be annoying. But he's got his Trubbish and he's got the Potown down. When he evolves that Trubbish into a Garbodor with Potown out, he's going to take 3 damage counters. He's already got the double colourless on the Drampa. He's already got the Choice Band on the Drampa. So 1 energy next turn, and he could be doing 150. That's enough to KO the Volcanion. Or maybe even play something like... Oh, it's a Big Wheel GX, Nick.
It is a Big Wheel GX. So shuffling his hand into his deck, drawing 10 brand new cards. And you know what, Ross? I think Big Wheel GX is actually even better in Expanded than it is in Standard, because people are much less likely to be able to access N in the early turns, given that they tend to play lower counts of it, and maybe lower counts of Tapu Lele. So normally people are relying on no Shaman or maybe Versus Seekers to reuse ends in the late game, but stopping an early Big Wheel is actually a little bit harder in Expanded.
And Nico has got a full bench, so if he's going to play an N, he better have the N in hand. I love the Big Wheel here from Philip. He knew that Righteous Edge for 20 was just not really doing anything relevant, and this could be... Philip has not had an explosive start in either of the games so far, and I really do think this could be the game where he actually pulls it off. And if Game 3's the first one you do it, good time.
Yeah. And then not only, you're saying first of all, it would be really... If they wanted to end, Nico better have it in hand. But of course, if Nico does have it in hand and then plays it, then that means that he's forced to play that N instead of maybe like a Blacksmith, which of course he'd much rather play a lot of the time. So no matter what it does against Nico, it's pretty much a good result for Philip either way. And yeah, we see there is the Blacksmith, so Philip is going to get to keep that 10-card hand. And as you very rightly said, Ross, I would be very surprised if we didn't see an extremely explosive turn next turn.
I mean, with looking at his hand, he's got Ultra Ball, he's got Computer Search, he's got a Chorus to follow it up. I mean, so we do see a Power Heater here for... I was going to say, there's no way that does 60. It's either 50 or 80. So he does get the Power Heater there for 80, gets the energy, and now he's starting to build up that energy. And we saw Game 1, the early Nitro Attack GX did a lot of work for Nico, along with the early Kiawe. He didn't have that Game 2, and Philip really punished him in the late game by taking out those Turtonators and taking 2 prizes when Nico had to stop for a Nitro Attack GX. So now, I mean, the big question, I'm a little bit excited to find out the answer. What is Philip going to do with his 10-card hand?
Probably, I imagine the answer will be a lot. Apparently, one of the answers is he's going to use the Tapu Lele to find himself a Guzma.
And this is what I was starting to say before I got really excited by the Big Wheel GX. As long as he's got a Float Stone for his Garbodor, and he probably will, I mean, if he can get a Garbodor blocking abilities and a Float Stone, then he can play Guzma, bring up either a Volcanion or a Lele, then retreat the newly minted Garbodor with the Float Stone, which we're assuming he's going to have, and then attach an energy to Drampa, get 2 prizes early game, and then whereas we've been so used to seeing Nico with the early pressure, Philip is going to turn it right back round again. And my prediction of Turtonator winning the tournament starting to look a little bit thinner here.
Yeah, but perhaps. We do see there he's gone for the Ultra Ball. He's going to grab himself a Seismitoad EX off of that. He did have all the cards in hand to do that combo with the Garbotoxin and everything else he wanted to, but it looks like instead he's just going to attach a Psychic to it, then going to go for the Guzma. There it is, bringing up the Trubbish, and up comes what looks to be... What is that? Oh, the Ho-Oh.
The Ho-Oh is a big threat to Seismitoad.
And there goes an Acid Spray, but it is a Tails.
So a far more conservative turn than we were expecting,
yeah.
But...
And actually, Ross, that is a huge deal, because now Nico all needs is an energy attachment and a Blacksmith, and the Ho-Oh would actually be powered up. If Philip was able to get aheads, then Nico doing that same combo would only at maximum be able to do a Sacred Fire this turn, not the full 180. Or, I mean, he could do Steam Ups as well, I guess, but it's... he's gone for the Sycamore anyway.
But he is going to get the KO with Sacred Fire here. He will be doing at the moment 110 with Sacred Fire with the couple of Steam Ups, so that's pretty nice.
He won't be able to because he's already attached an energy for turn and played a supporter, so he can't attach any extra energy this turn. But he has got the double Steam Up going, and he will be able to retreat into the Volcanion, do Power Heater, still get the KO, and get 2 more energy in play.
And this is a wonderful play from Nico. Sorry, I completely miscounted the energy on Ho-Oh then, which was very silly. Power Heater here will do 80 because of those 2 Steam Ups. And now, I mean, that flip was inconsequential in the end as it happened. That Acid Spray flip did very little, and Philip went slightly more conservative there. Might be that he just didn't have, even after all those 10, but I think it's Seismitoad time here. And I think this could slow the game down enough for Philip to get far more set up.
Yeah, so here comes Seismitoad. He's got the computer search ready in hand, so he'll be able to use that to find himself the double colours and sort of at least guarantee the Quaking Punch, maybe try and slow Nico down a little bit, because right now, again, he is just firing off on all cylinders, and there's the computer search. Opting to discard looks to be like a Juniper and a Rainbow Energy, and then I imagine after that, he'll probably be looking to play that Colress.
Yeah, I mean, Colress will grab him 8 new cards here. The only other thing he's got in his hand is a Choice Band, which he wants to save for later on in the game, lest the Field Blower come down and get rid of it. So, again, he's got the Quaking Punch here. He'll be doing 60. And again, those numbers we were talking about yesterday, huge difference between 120 and 130. 2 Quaking Punches will not KO a Volcanion. And here's the thing. Maybe Nico just uses the next couple of turns to do a couple of power heaters, maybe play a blacksmith, get set up enough that by the time that Volcanion does go down, it's kind of all over.
Yeah, this Colress is going to get the game 8 cards there, so he's going to be able to find something else, maybe just make sure that he has something to follow up with. He has got the Float Stone, but I don't think he was able to find the Garbotoxin, sadly. That's a little bit of an unfortunate draw for him. Maybe would have expected him to find it given how much he's getting there, but no, it looks like Nico, again, is going to have access to even more steam-ups, and this really isn't what Philip wants to see, because there it is, already is making a huge impact in the amount that this amount of damage that this Volcanion can do.
Well, does he have a blacksmith? Because what I was thinking here is if he can just oh no, he's already got it with Turtonator.
Yep.
I'm sitting here thinking about Ho-Oh. He doesn't need Ho-Oh. 1 steam up, and now he can do this, get the KO with the Turtonator, take 2 prizes, and once again, Philip not having that Garbotoxin Garbodor a couple turns ago after the big wheel has really hurt him as we go forward in this game.
A huge miss for Philip, as we saw there. He got absolutely punished for that. The Turtonator able to knock out the Seismitoad, and now back to Philip as he needs to just think about what he even is able to do. He's got the Bridget available in hand, but I don't think, maybe he can find a second Seismitoad, just use that Bridget to get the 1EX, being the second Seismitoad and Quaking Punch again, but it looks like instead he's just going to opt to go for Trubbish.
Yep, getting set up here is good, but I'm still looking at it and I'm thinking, Drampa doesn't one-hit KO Turtonator, and Turtonator here with a Blacksmith will be straight back to doing 160, 190 with a single steam up, and at that stage, I'm wondering what Philip's plan here is. In the previous game, he seemed behind, but he was doing that chip damage. He was doing 80, 100 here or there with Garbodor and Lele, so that he could come and finish off with Seismitoad. But here now, Seismitoad has gone down so quickly, hasn't taken any prizes, and it's just not seeming as effective. Are we actually going to see another acid spray here?
Yeah, and he kind of has to. One of the other sort of advantages that the Turtonator has used today are Tails.
It's another Tails.
Yeah, so one of the advantages that the Turtonator deck has over something like Drampa Garbodor, one of the ways that Drampa has to really draw out a game and sort of buy those extra turns is Drampa's Righteous Edge attack. For a single colorless energy, 20 damage, be able to discard a special energy attached to your opponent's active. Absolutely huge attack in so many circumstances. But of course, Nico's playing 17 basic fire energy. Righteous Edge doesn't do anything to him at all, so that just isn't an option for Philip. He's forced to, try his luck with Acid Spray on a coin flip, and if he gets Tails like he did the past 2 times, he's just sitting there with a bit of a sad face.
And now this, again, it might have been inconsequential, because an energy Blacksmith would still have got the KO. Although, to be honest, if he can get 2 steam ups, he needs 3 energy, which is quite a bit. But if he can get an energy and double steam up, he can shell trap here, and then actually get a KO on the Trubbish with that shell trap activated. He has gone for the Blacksmith here, but does he have the energy to steam up?
No.
Nope. He's just going Bright Flame.
Going Bright Flame, still absolutely fine. Able to take a knockout. And picks up the computer search off the prize as well. A very big prize for him. That's going to,
nice.
Even if he gets N now, it's going to up his chances of hitting an out a lot. And now, again, Philip, what do you do? You've got a Lele. You can maybe, grab the N, like you said, but there's just so many outs that Nico potentially has to just take this game. And Philip has yet to take a single prize.
And that is an issue. In the previous game, Philip seemed really far behind, but he had the chip damage and he had the Seismitoad in the back, and that is what won him the game. He doesn't have the Seismitoad in the back anymore. Now he plays Rescue Stretcher, a single copy thereof, but it's still, I don't think, not going to be enough here because we don't have the chip damage. What we have is a Ho-Oh, which is one Blacksmith away from KOing anything on Philip's side of the field.
And you can see Philip really agonising over this. He knows that he is absolutely under immense pressure, and where he puts this DCE could be the difference between winning and losing. Instead, he opts to go for the Psychic onto the Dramper, so that is now potentially ready to do a Berserk later, but there's actually not even anything on Philip's bench that has damage to make Berserk do 180. If there was the case, he actually would be able to take the knockout because Turtonator already has one damage on it, but the only thing that's damaged on Philip's bench is Dramper, and if Dramper itself is damaged, that does not trigger the extra damage for Berserk.
I mean, he's clearly looking for the Garbodor here, and this could be a big swing. If he could actually get the Garbodor, he evolves it up, Potown is in play, he takes the free damage counters, Dramper does 180, that single damage from Acid Spray becomes super relevant and actually gets the KO.
And he's got the Rescue Stretcher and the Ultra Ball. I think that he's got it.
And as excited as I want to get here, he's then got a GX of 100 HP remaining in the active. Blacksmith out, and Nico's got Versus Seeker.
Oh, right.
And he's got 2 energy in the discard, and he's got Blacksmith. This is going to be so disappointing. It's going to be such a good play. And I do want to just stop for a minute and I want to observe how good this play from Philip is. Getting the Garbodor, turning off abilities, while getting damage, so that he can get the KO on Turtonator after the Acid Spray, which did just enough damage to put him in range. It's a wonderful play. And Nico's just going to go Versus Seeker for Blacksmith.
Yeah, unfortunate. Again, Philip doing absolutely everything he can, but very active. But Nico just showed the Versus Seeker. He's like, I'm not even going to waste your time. Nico takes game 3, takes the match, and will be advancing into the top 4.
And we will never know whether he took the KO with Ho-Oh or Volcanion EX. That will forever remain a mystery.
It will, just like Versus Seeker. There it is. That's all I need to take the win there. And God, I mean, Nico's going to be very, very happy about this. Nico has a bit of a history, as we saw there from his accomplishments, of almost getting there, but not quite. He has now managed to almost break that curse a little bit. He's advanced a little step further. He's into the top 4, and who knows, maybe he could even make the finals and take the whole thing.
That would be good. And I mean, congratulations to Philip Schulz, making it all the way to top 8, bringing a deck which, quite frankly, was not on many people's radar for an expanded tournament like this. People were not coming into this saying that Dramper Garbodor was the deck to watch out for. And Philip just came in with his own testing and his own idea.